Okay. G'day everyone. My name is Ketan. I run the Ministry of Nodes, and today I want to talk a little bit about Bitcoin nodes and why they're important. So we just heard that our money is getting debased every day, and there is a potential solution here in the form of Bitcoin. And one of the things that we're doing here is actually just making sure that we have this fixed supply of money. Now, this fixed supply of 21 million coins doesn't just magically happen through rainbows and butterflies. What we need to do is actually enforce this rule that we no longer want our money to be debased. And this is what a Bitcoin node actually does. And that's kind of, I guess a brief introduction of why it's kind of important. But the agenda I'll go through today is what is a Bitcoin node, why you should run a Bitcoin node, which I've just sort of briefly mentioned there, but I'll get into further details. Ways to run a Bitcoin node. I'll go through a suggested solution called the Ministry of Nodes Bitcoin Node Box, which is available for free. And I'll talk about the pros and cons of this. So that's kind of where we're headed, and I'll get straight into it. So what is a Bitcoin node? A Bitcoin node is an application that you run on your computer. It downloads and verifies all transactions since the inception of Bitcoin, and it gives you the ability to broadcast your transactions and check the status of them. Now, that's a loose textbook definition, but if I was to sort of give you an example of where Bitcoin nodes are a real solution. Say we're all on Trezor's node, for example, right? And we're all using Trezor as our Bitcoin node, which many people do when they plug in their hardware wallets. Same thing with Ledger, so on and so forth. But yeah, if you're using just Trezor's node, how do we know that they're not putting us on a blockchain that has 25 million coins? And then we're all just flinging sats from our wallets on a 25 million coin blockchain. The fact is, we don't know that. And so Trezor is now deciding the rules and dictating what is Bitcoin rather than you. You must come to the conclusion that, hey, no, I subscribe to Bitcoin only having 21 million coins, and that makes sure that, we're making sure that is what we define as Bitcoin, and not somebody else is defining Bitcoin on our behalf. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here. So why do we want to run a Bitcoin node? The first one is to verify your own balances and incoming transactions without the use of trusted third parties. Meaning we're not using someone like Ledger or Trezor or one of these companies, these big conglomerates who feed us just numbers on a screen. We're actually doing it ourselves. And so that's really, really important. In fact, this is the key reason, the number one reason that you should run your own Bitcoin node is so that you are going directly to your own Bitcoin node and getting that information out of there rather than going somewhere else to get that information. So that's kind of it is a selfish act. Running a Bitcoin node is a selfish act. It's not, for, the good of the network or anything like that. It is actually for you to verify independently, like you would if you were going to get gold. If someone was to give you, a brown bag with what you think is gold, what would you do? You'd open it, you'd weigh it, you'd do those sorts of things. You'd inspect it, and that sort of stuff. So if you're not doing that, then, who knows if you're actually getting paid. And so with a Bitcoin node, this is the digital version of basically checking gold. And so the next one is broadcasting your own transactions. So what if one day Trezor or Ledger or one of these companies that we're all using as a Bitcoin node, what if they come out and say, all right, well, from the hours of, you can only transact between the hours of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I would personally flip. And so this is why we say, hey, if you run your own Bitcoin node, you're not susceptible to the rules of somebody else, all these arbitrary rules that, other node operators that we're all using, that they can't inflict these arbitrary rules on us. And so that's what makes it censorship resistant. You can transact whenever you want, for whatever purpose you want. And that's what we want to keep with Bitcoin. And the only way to do that is through running your own Bitcoin node. The other thing is from a privacy perspective. Now, when you go to, when you're logging into Trezor or Ledger or whatever, and you see your balance there, what's happening is that your master public key, which is actually a series of all of your transactions and your balances, are going over to Ledger, and it's querying their blockchain. And so they can take your IP address and your balance and do some analytics with that. Not ideal. Not ideal from a privacy perspective. So just make sure that when you're using, or if you are using another person's Bitcoin node, you might want to have your VPN switched on or something like that, right, to preserve that privacy. Or you can just run your own Bitcoin node that's sitting right next to you, and you can query that one instead of someone else's. And then, as I said, it does add to the decentralization of the network by switching this computer on. It's usually on 24/7. You're also, connecting to other Bitcoin nodes, and you're feeding that node or other nodes that information. It's kind of like torrenting. Torrenting in Australia is massive. It's rampant. In fact, Australians are the torrenting capital of the world. And that's why we have terrible upload speeds in Australia. We only get up to like 50 Mbps. We can't get gigabit upload, whereas here it's like $70 a month, off you go, get a gigabit connection, both up and down. In Australia, we can't do that. And the reason is because we like to torrent. And this is exactly what we're doing. We're torrenting money. And that's what this movement represents. Not many people like that, and it is what it is. And the other distinction that I wanted to make is that you are not actually earning or mining Bitcoin. That's a completely separate process. You're not going to earn anything from this. What you're actually doing is setting up your own Bitcoin or banking infrastructure when you're running a Bitcoin node. So it's actually going to present a cost to you to do this. It's like, you have your own fake Bitcoin detector. So if someone was to send you Ethereum to your Bitcoin blockchain or something, it's going to reject it. Rather than somebody else rejecting or making sure that it's being rejected, you're doing it yourself. And so you're not earning anything, you're actually just verifying that it is Bitcoin that you're receiving and that you're sending out. And that's why it's really important, okay? So hopefully we're clear on the main reasons as to why we want to run a Bitcoin node. Now comes the difficult part. How do we go about doing it? Okay. So this one. Okay, so I have this website here, and it explains various methods by which you can sort of just plug and play into a device which contains or downloads the entire blockchain. It has enough capacity to do so, those sorts of things. So there's a lot of options here for you on this website. It's called thebitcoinhole.com. Start9 is one of them. You've probably heard of some of these brands in the space. Start9, Umbrel, Ronin Dojo. And if we keep scrolling over, the Nodl, the Bitcoin Notebox is surprisingly there. And then MyNode is another one, Raspberry Blitz, and the list kind of goes on. And what you can do is like check what's in them, whether they offer a warranty, all that sort of stuff. So you can get some really good, quick information about what that node offers. Now, I'm glad that all of these exist, but they are also a trusted third party. My preference is that you would go around, watch a video tutorial series, which I have populated here and built and put out some tutorials to go and build your own Bitcoin node. And so you can purchase the hardware, you can purchase all this sort of stuff, and install the software yourself and get it going without the need of trusted third parties. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to minimize as many trusted third parties as possible. And so I've built this series here on YouTube, which is available for free. And you can go through and install, Bitcoin Core, install the operating system, and this is all on the Ministry of Nodes YouTube channel. You just click the playlist for 2024, and it goes through how to run it step by step. Now, the downside to that is obviously there is a lot of, it can get very, very technical, and many people don't go down this path. But I would encourage you, if you are somewhat decent at computers, that you give it a shot, or at least watch it just to see how I build it through. I purchased my own hardware. I purchased the whole 2 terabyte SSDs. I get everything together and I put it all together and I install it right before your eyes. And then I connect my wallet. Instead of going to Trezor's node, I go to my own node. That's just sitting there at my desk. So that's what I would encourage that people do. However, again, the vast majority of people will probably want a plug-and-play solution, which you just literally plug into into your router and kind of off you go. And so those other solutions also exist. Now, I've also put together, a node that you can purchase that literally is, plug and play. You watch the 6-minute tutorial, plug it in, off you go. It is the actual end result of the series of videos. So you can either go down the series of videos, or you can get the end product right at the end, and I'll ship it out to you. But I'm hoping though that you will watch the videos more than and follow along rather than just purchase off me, because again, I'm a trusted third party. Not ideal. Not ideal. Okay. So this will go through, all of the requirements, how do you use it, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of yeah. So just to give you a bit more flavor around the node boxes that I like to teach about, it is a normal computer. These Dell Optiplexes, you can get them in abundance. So the way that I think about these is, these are actually old ex-lease government PCs. And so I'm just taking what the government has already produced or ordered and building a node off them to basically weaponize it against them. So quite good. So I would strongly suggest you look into like a refurbished computer that you've already, that's already out there. Like you can get these on Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree, secondhand computer shops. They will have these small form factors, because every 3 years, the government takes them, or all companies, they just take a whole bunch of them and then just dump them on the market. I can get one of these for 150 Australian dollars. Then you add in 150 for a 2 terabyte SSD, and you're looking at 300 Australian dollars to basically set up your own banking infrastructure. And this is what I mean by, it's adding a cost to you. The other thing is the electricity that it takes, which is, probably 20, 30 watts max, which is not we're not mining here, remember, we're just keeping a small device online. And then, of course, your internet connection that needs to be on 24/7 as well. So you're paying for that every month. So those are your typical costs. And then you install the operating system on it. You've got a Bitcoin Core instance, which is about 700 gigs of data. And then you've got an Electrum Rust server. Now, the reason that I've put on an Electrum Rust server is because the Bitcoin Core database, whilst, Bitcoin Core is a fantastic project, the database is really tough to query against, and so we need something a little bit more efficient to query against, and that's what an Electrum server does. You're basically just, it's an easier way to query your balances rather than going directly to Bitcoin Core. You go to another separate database, which is the same information but just indexed a little bit more efficiently, so that your wallet can actually go and read it. It becomes a lot quicker. And then, of course, you've got mempool.space, which is a fantastic website that you can see that shows all the blocks and the transaction histories in a nice graphical interface. And so instead of going to the official mempool.space, you can actually use your own Bitcoin node to go in and dig through there and check the status of your transactions. So that's kind of what is able to be achieved for $300, which I think is a compelling proposition if you want to enforce the 21 million, coin rule and you don't want your money debased anymore. This is what I would recommend that you go about doing. Now, I'll talk through some of the pros and costs. I've already kind of done that. But yeah, you've got minimal trusted third parties. It is a DIY approach. If you're going to go through those tutorials, it's very DIY. And that can be a pro and a con as well, which it also appears in the con slide. So no personal or identifiable information is stored on that thing. So you're not putting any private keys on this. It's all just, it's like a read-only function or just verify-only function. And it's lightweight, both physical and software. You're not adding other random bits of software on there, and it comes down to about 1.5 kilos all up, which you can transport around if you need to. It's small, it's silent, small form factor, very good uptimes, because you want if you're setting up your own bank, you don't want it to be down all the time. You want a good uptime, and so that's something that maybe with these other like umbrellas and those sorts of things, they might go down for whatever reason, and you want a good uptime so that at any point in time you need to transact, it's available for you to have a look at those transactions. And then obviously you get to learn new computing skills through those tutorials as well. The con is that there's no inbuilt battery or UPS, which is a uninterrupted power supply. So if there is a power outage at home, then you're left in the dark there a bit. But if you install it on a laptop, then you can at least get some battery out of it. So that's another recommendation that people use. They're using just laptops to run their Bitcoin nodes. So you just shut it down and it'll keep going on in the background. And if the power does go at your house, then if it's behind, you've still got the battery up and running. And it takes time to learn and understand this. It's not like you're going to do this in a day. It might take you a few iterations. You'll have to manually upgrade and update as compared to the other plug and play methods where you just hit the upgrade button and all the software kind of upgrades for you. The reason that I don't like that is because they're imposing their view on you. What if they said to you, okay, we think that Bitcoin has 25 million coins, you hit the update button and hooray, we've got a 25 million coin blockchain that we're now got installed, which we never really agreed to in the first place. So just be mindful of that update button. What exactly are you updating? Is it legitimate? Those are questions that need to be asked when you're looking at these node in a box type packages. And then, of course, you need to have, there's no trusted third parties to rely upon, so you're doing it yourself, and that's tough. That's really tough, but I think it's worthwhile, and my videos will handhold you as much as possible to get you across the line. And then you must have also physical access to the router to plug into. So there are some places like hotels and that sort of stuff that you might be living in where you don't have access to the router, you can't just plug in, it's all Wi-Fi based, so that's going to be a problem there. But what I would recommend is if this is kind of just for home, and then what you can do is open up a VPN to then tunnel back into your home device, so no matter where you are in the world, you can actually access your Bitcoin node. And that's what I would recommend there, rather than taking it from place to place. Just have it in one location, set up an avenue for you to tunnel back in securely, just to do what you need to, and then out you go. So yeah, that's kind of really all I had to say. Were there any sort of questions there or feedback from the audience or anything like that? No, pretty quiet room. Excellent, cool.